Hi, my name's Tyler Brown. I work within the wildlife division, but today I'm here to talk about fly fishing. So we're going to go over just the basics, and right now I'll show you how to set up your rod. And with conventional fishing, there are different types of rods. For fly fishing, there are different weights. So there's anything from like a 0 to 1 weight rod, all the way up to, I think it's a 14 weight rod. So your lighter weight rods are going to be good for small streams, fishing for trout or even panfish. And then those bigger, heavier weight rods are good for ocean fishing for marlin or shark, or even stripers off the coast. So once we have our line all rigged up, the next thing to do is to attach a leader. And the leader is usually going to be like a monofilament or a fluorocarbon, and they typically, when you buy them, they are called a tapered leader. So one end is going to be thicker, and then it goes down into what we call the tippet material, and that tippet is what we attach to the fly. So now we have our fly line and our leader, and most fly lines that you buy are going to have a welded loop, and your tapered leader will also have a loop on the end. So attaching it is pretty simple. You're just going to take your fly line and slide it through the loop on your leader, and then you're going to run your fingers down to the tag end, or the very end of the leader, which is the tippet material, and then you're going to pass it through that loop on the fly line and then pull it completely through. And that's just going to be a very simple loop-to-loop connection. It's very strong, and it's the easiest way to attach your fly line to your leader. And then now you're ready to tie on a fly. So with fly fishing, there are many different types of flies that you can use to catch fish. So these here are dry flies, and they are going to sit on the surface of the water, and a fish will come up and eat it off the top. So this right here is going to be like a grasshopper. And there are many different insects that live in streams. Like here, this fly right here would imitate an elk-hair caddis, or is an elk-hair caddis, and it represents or imitates a caddisfly. The next group of flies that are commonly used are nymphs. And these are flies that are going to ride below the surface and imitate an aquatic insect that lives on the bottom in the stones, or on the rocks. So for one, we have a stonefly. These can be pretty heavy flies. I like to lead off with these to get my setup, my rigs close to the bottom, and down quickly through the water. Another really common and popular fly is going to be a pheasant tail fly. And this one, you can see it's pretty chewed up. I've caught plenty of fish on this one. It's about time that I retire that fly. And another category is similar to nymphs, but it is wet flies. And these are going to imitate insects that are beginning to hatch off of the bottom and are rising toward the surface. And these are really good to attach behind a nymph, and you can actually swing them, and when you swing them through the current, they rise up to the surface. So that there is a rabbitfoot emerger. And then one other category of flies are streamers. And streamers usually or typically represent bait fish or crayfish or anything a little bit bigger in the water. This here is just a simple zonker streamer with some hackle around the collar. Olive is a very popular color for trout fishing. I usually like to add a lot of weight, so you'll see I have cone heads, and that just helps get your fly down to the bottom. And a lot of people think that fly fishing is specifically for trout. However, you can catch a lot of different species of fish using a fly rod. So this is my box for catching a lot of warm water species. So I have some poppers that are gonna ride on the surface of the water, and you strip this along and it makes a popping sound, and this is a really good fly to use during the summertime to catch largemouth bass. I also have some bigger streamers in here that can catch pike. Pike are really fun to catch on a fly rod. And believe it or not, you can actually catch some pretty big trout on a streamer like that. So fly fishing is not just for trout. And one of the best ways to learn to fly fish is to go to your local pond and catch panfish. And a good panfish fly would be something like a small woolly bugger. And these flies can also catch gar or carp or freshwater drum, all found in Lake Champlain, and are a blast to catch on a fly rod. So the first thing you're going to do after you have all your fly line, or a good amount of fly line stripped out, is just try to work that line out. And the basic fly cast is going to be between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, if you can picture a clock. And you're really just going to want to stop at 10 o'clock, go back to 2 o'clock. 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And you don't want to go too fast. You want to allow your line to unravel in front of you and behind you. And it usually helps at first to kind of turn your head and watch the line unravel. And after a while, you'll get the hang of it and you won't need to watch your line. And the more line you have out, the longer you'll have to wait. And then once you get enough line out and you're looking to where you want to cast, you can just lay that down. And then you can fish. And then when you're ready to cast again, you just lift it up off the water, make those casts out, and lay it back down. All right, so once you've hooked a fish, you usually will have some fly line laying out in front of you, and you're gonna wanna reel that up. So I have the fly line pinched with my right hand up against the cork, and I have the other line going to the reel pinched between my pinky, and that just helps guide it into the reel. So I'm just gonna reel that in, making sure I have constant tension on the line so I don't lose the fish. And then once I have it on the reel, it's a little bit easier to control and get in. The reel, at least for trout, is really there just to hold the line. You can use the drag. Most reels do have a drag, but I find when fighting trout that you can just fight the fish using the bend of the rod and your fingers as the drag. And when the fish pulls, you just kind of want to ease up. And it's always good to hold your rod tip high rather than point it down toward the water. I'm just going to work this fish in. And just keep its head up above the water and guide it right into the net. At 10 o'clock, pause for a second, let that line unravel, and then slowly lower my rod tip down. I didn't mean to catch that one. That was, yeah, I mean,